Good evening, folks. Welcome to Truly Scottish TV's Through a Scottish Prism, the programme that is unashamedly 100% for the independence of the nation of Scotland. We look at everything from the Scottish point of view, not anyone else's point of view. And tonight, as I was telling you all last week, I'm back home in my beautiful town of Barrhead, sunny downtown Barrhead. Not quite as warm as sunny Catalonia, I have to say. And I'm joined tonight, a special for you folks, with a dear friend of mine, John Duffy, a fellow Barrhead, Neilson and Upplemore member, and we've shared many a door-knocking, leaflet-dropping things together. Good evening to you, John.
How are we, sir?
We're not so bad. I should add as well, at the present, this is my landlord, so I've got to be in my best behaviour or I could be out in the street by tomorrow. But we've got a few things we're going to discuss tonight, John. We're going to talk about the budget, the broadband saga, and of course the VAT, the famous VAT story that's been working through this week rather. So the budget, let's start with the budget, John. It's got to have been, in my humble opinion, the most boring, predictable budget for decades.
Well, in my opinion, I think potentially the Chancellor's been on holiday for the last 3 months and has come back and quickly scribbled down a couple of points on a piece of paper and then delivered it to the nation. There is nothing of any substance in there. A pretty pointless exercise.
I mean, they've missed every target. I mean, I don't know how many, 29, 39, 59, 120, I don't know. How many targets have these Tories missed? And every Chancellor. Osborne before him, and now Hammond.
Yep. It seems to be, let's see who can miss the targets by the most. That's what they do. And I think it's what we expect them to do now. And that's a sad indictment, when you expect them to get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
You know? But they're not answerable. So it doesn't matter how many times they get it wrong. They'll be allowed to get it wrong again next time. You know?
It's like my famous drum that everyone hears me beating all the time, like the 490 billion that's off the UK PLC balance sheet. This is forgotten. The UK press will not hold this government to account. They won't ask them the awkward questions that the people want to hear. But we now see that austerity is with us. It's not going away. I can't see how when austerity is going to end. It's not end before we get rid of the Tories. 10 years, 20 years.
Again, you know my opinion on this. That austerity is not a necessity. It is not a requirement. It's a choice. It's a choice that they've made, and they seem hell bent on sticking with it until they've crippled the country, or at least the vast majority of ordinary people in this country. Because as you and I well know, those people making the decisions will never suffer as a result of those decisions.
For sure. They're going. He's saying to us that there is no other way. You know, there's no alternative. We have to keep on with austerity. They're screwing down, but they did a lot of smoke and mirrors. They tried to say that Scotland was getting an extra $2 billion onto its budget. That lasted less than 2 hours before it was exposed as nothing but, as I say, Tory smoke and mirrors.
It's pretty much an increase to the half of the Scottish budget that we already can't spend. So what they've done is said, well, here's some more money that you can't spend. So you're now, you know, one of the wealthiest parts of the UK because we've given you extra money that we're going to spend for you to look after it because you're not capable.
Okay. And what you do spend, we want you to pay back.
Aye.
It's a loan. It's like a payday loan that they've given us. I mean, that's like what it is. And then Ruth and the rest of them all jumping in. But the other one that did come out after 130 times, or 139 times, I think is the exact number. I'm not very good with numbers, as you know.
No, I'm aware, yeah.
Asked questions about the VAT for the police and fire service. They've at last decided to give us it back. Because we've got Tory MPs, apparently.
Yes, because we've been good little boys and voted some Tories in, yeah. So there's a wee sweetener. However, in reality, this money should have been returned to the Scottish Government a long time ago. The whole issue is, as was discussed earlier, the whole thing was basically on a technicality that has been that was removed from the emergency services in the first place. However, now that it's been restored, the Scottish Office Minister now tells us that there were several ways that we could have corrected this loophole over a number of years, and the Scottish Government didn't bother.
Our Fluffy you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. He's now telling us there were several ways that we could have corrected that. Now, 139 times, as you say, it was raised in Parliament. Why wasn't that answer given any of those 139 times? Bizarre.
Politics. They're playing politics with Scotland. They're playing politics with your money, folks. I mean, you can't put a number on it, but who's to say that this hasn't cost lives? This hasn't caused crimes? This hasn't caused heart-aching people?
I would actually, I'd stick my neck out here and say it has definitely caused lives. Not so long ago, there was a case of a car which went off the road on the A9. And there was no, whatever way, the call centre didn't communicate to the police officers on the ground or whatever, and nobody attended that. And that was laid squarely at the door of the centralised communications, which may not needed to happen had we had
the extra money.
So potentially that particular case may not have happened. But there are probably hundreds of others that you haven't heard of. So I would say, yeah, and it is just an opinion, that there have probably been deaths, or at least people seriously hurt and suffering as a result of this money being missing.
But the First Minister put it right. Now that you've fixed the problem, Tories, what about backdating it? If they're admitting it was a mistake to withhold that money, they should return it. It's 140 million. I'm sure our lads in the fire service and the police service could put that money to good use to make our citizens safer people.
Indeed, and I'm not sure exactly how many years we're talking about, but you've then got to look at, you know, strictly in a financial terms, you would be looking at, you know, well, there's a compound interest to be added to that. There's, you know, it's a substantial amount of money, and there's nobody in the emergency service. I heard the chief of police in Scotland saying, you know, the only thing now would be to make sure that the Scottish Government did actually give it to the police, as if it was likely to go somewhere else. Now, that notion, from my point of view, it can only be someone who doesn't particularly support the Scottish Government, I would have thought.
Yes, absolutely. But the mess, the financial mess this country's in, this budget's not fixing it.
No. I was going to say it's a plaster, it's a sticking plaster, but it's not even that really. It's the corner of a piece of tissue.
Yeah.
You know,
it licked and then stuck it in a massive wound.
Yeah.
It was not. Each day goes on. There's another item that you just want to shake your head and say, what are you doing? We've looked at the quality of our unionist members of Parliament, our unionist MSPs, our unionist councillors. I mean, we had one councillor who resigned from the Tory party this week because he said that there were, you know, right-wing racists in Moray, and he didn't want to be any part of it. And of course, needless to say, our dear friends in the foreign-owned broadcasters and media in Scotland didn't really follow up on the story. No one asked Ruthie about it. But it's Christine Hare, the famous Tory lady MP for Angus. She and again our Fluffy were able to make absolute fools of themselves when it came to broadband.
Indeed, and it's not the first time. I seem to recall Jamie Green did exactly the same thing in the Scottish Parliament, where he was in full flow criticising the Scottish Government for the rollout of 4G and broadband across Scotland and the islands and stuff, only to be reminded that it was indeed a reserved matter and had nothing at all to do with the Scottish Government. But not before Mr Green had managed to make a monumental fool of himself by tweeting it all over the planet first. You know, I just think, you know, are these people really as stupid as they appear to be? Or is this a big act for somebody else's benefit? Because they can't be paying them enough to make a fool of themselves like that in such a grand scale. And there's plenty of them do it on a regular enough basis.
Indeed, they seem to live in their own wee world. But are they, as you say, are they stupid with a posh accent, or are they indeed? Do they do this knowing that they will not be held to account? They can do it with impunity. They can lie because the British media will not call them out for it.
My immediate, as you well know, I'm quite cynical with anything relating
That's why
to the
we're
government.
such good friends.
Indeed. But as soon as you see something like this, or Murdo making his weekly fool of himself, the first thing I do is look for a squirrel, because I think they're not that. They can't. Nobody's that stupid.
I think Murdo is.
Well, except Murdo. Murdo may be the exception that proves the rule, but you have, Miss Hare and Green both making the same mistake, probably less than a year apart. And I'm thinking, there's a reason for that. And immediately I'm looking for the squirrel, haven't found it, but I'm sure there'll be one. Either that or they're really stupid.
I think it's actually, I personally think it's a bit of both. They are not half as clever as you think. And what gets me is the people who are voting for them. Surely some of them must be looking and thinking, really, did I vote for this guy, this girl? I mean, they're beyond. No one seems to know what's reserved, and no one seems to know what's devolved. Except, I have to say, and I'm not from just I'm biased, because I am biased. I've admitted it. I say it at the beginning of every programme. But our guys know what's devolved. They know the extra powers they want. They know where we want to go. It would seem that the unionists just don't know, or they choose to pretend they don't know.
Well, there's a couple of things on that I'd maybe raise. Firstly, if Ruth Davidson or some such comes out and makes a comment about how badly the Scottish Government are dealing with a reserved issue, then it will be reported on the mass media. However, if Nicola then refutes that won't be seen on the mass media. So you have to say, is it a calculated gamble that they're going to get the Scottish Government slaughtered for something that is not their fault? That's the immediate thing. The other thing is, of course, that when you're saying, our guys know what's reserved and what's not, well, they would, because they're Scottish and they're working on behalf of Scotland. The other guys are all British parties and they're working on behalf of the UK. There's a very distinct difference.
But there is, and it's, the hypocrisy stinks. It really does. I know it always was, and a lot of the people listening tonight will be the same. But there was a classic case of the other day. It was the National Day of Action by the Labour Party to lift the pay cap.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in Wales, where the only place in the UK that they are running, they refuse to lift the pay cap.
Yeah.
But they're telling us, well, you must pay more money. You're not doing it right. It's so bad, and yet they don't. And again, the media don't seem to go after them.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've seen this or something very similar in Glasgow City Council, which obviously has become SNP controlled, and immediately Labour start shouting at them to pay the equal pay claims, which Labour have been sitting on for 10 years or something, and refusing to pay. But as soon as the administration changes, Labour jump on it, say, right, it's now settled. That's because we forced the SNP government to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, there's the jokes, and you see it, and I'm being guilty of, or not guilty, I'm proud to admit that I've taken the mickey out of Richard Leonard and Monica Lennon about their claiming of credit for, Richard Lennon's famous claiming credit for the BIFAB deal, Monica Lennon for the period poverty policy.
I've seen that.
It's, and so everyone's just laughing at them. But one of the other things that's really come out of this, when they're talking about pay, we're going to have, by what the Chancellor said this week, we're going to have 20 years of negative wage growth in the UK, and yet the rich are getting richer.
Absolutely.
And you're seeing headlines of things like, this is going back as worst wage sort of poverty, if you like, it's going back to the Napoleonic Wars. And yet some of our people in Scotland think that these people are the best people to look after our needs. I sometimes, John, despair at them.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to the age old. I mean, a simple one, they say, but, you know, Scotland's in a bad place. £15 billion deficit. Well, that's fine, maybe. Who's running our economy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
and yet 490 billion, the famous 490 billion, doesn't seem to be a problem. It's gone, it's vanished,
Yeah.
it's left. And the other one that's not come across just now, we know, is that Brent crude's been crawling up in price slowly but surely for the last few months. Now up round about $64 a barrel.
Yeah, it seems to be on some sort of reverse volume control. Because the more expensive the oil becomes, the quieter everybody becomes about it.
Correct.
But of course, when the opposite happens and the price goes down, when the price goes down, the volume goes up.
Oh, indeed, yes, yeah. We get Douglas Fraser on with his best doom and gloom voice,
Yes.
and he tells us how desperate it is, but nothing when it's going up. And the other one that I find, you know, when it's like, you know, Andy Murray is, when he's on a winning streak, he's a British tennis player, and then as soon as he loses, Scott loses, immediately out he goes. The oil becomes Scottish when it's down at 50 a barrel, but when it goes up to 64, 65 and climbs, yeah, it's either a British asset or it's silence, and that's what we've happened today.
Well, famously they said the oil industry produced a report a couple of years ago that suggested really that they needed the price of crude to be around the $60 mark to make a decent profit. So since then, obviously changes in techniques and the way that they recover oil from the North Sea or anywhere else for that matter have meant that it's become more efficient, and therefore it costs less to produce. So therefore the point at which they hit this balance, the profit margin, should be lower. So not only is the price $4 above the 60, but it's costing them less to produce it.
Yeah.
So the profit is higher. Nothing to see here.
Yeah, yes, indeed. I mean, it's just fortunate we've got those broad shoulders of the UK to help us with that oil.
Absolutely.
I mean, I wish we hadn't. Scotland, the only country in the world that's discovered oil and got poorer. But I'd like to mention a personal thing, and you were part of my enjoyment today. There was a tweet on today from Kenny Farquharson, of the lead writer for the Times.
Yes.
And I just politely sent out a tweet 10 hours ago, saying to Kenny, can you name me 3 things that we can achieve within the United Kingdom Union that cannot be achieved in an independent Scotland? I'm happy to report, folks, that 10 hours later, Kenny was unable to give one answer. He couldn't tell us one thing that we could achieve in the British Union that cannot be achieved as an independent country. And I would challenge all of you out there to do the same. Try and think of 3 things. Try and think of one thing that Scotland couldn't do, that the United Kingdom can do as a nation. And I think you'll find yourself there taking a long time. But we could do lots of things, John, couldn't we?
Absolutely.
Without the United Kingdom round our neck.
Of course. You become free to make your choices, and the money we were talking about earlier that's spent on our behalf then becomes our choice how it gets spent. Of course, we may make the choice to spend it badly, and that is entirely possible, but at the end of the day, it's our choice, and we've made that choice, and if we spend it badly, we've got to fix it. As it stands at the minute, you know, it doesn't really matter who makes the mistakes with the Scottish budget. We still have to fix it.
For sure, absolutely, I agree. The ones, you know, people say, oh, you couldn't have nuclear. Well, yes, if we wanted, I would hope to God never, but if we wanted, we could have nuclear weapons. We could. We don't want them. I say certainly I'm so opposed to nuclear weapons. It's not true, but we could have them. So we don't have to be in the UK for that. We could have austerity without, you know, but not being in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could have some illegal wars. We could have some lords and ladies and pay them huge expenses.
We could.
Hopefully we wouldn't.
We couldn't. Although, just as a side note to that, your lords and ladies, I do believe that we need a second chamber of some sort, probably of non-politicians, I would have thought. But certainly not to sit sleeping, drinking our whiskey, going to sleep.
Correct.
Whiskey that we're paying for.
Yeah. Well, it's now British whiskey, isn't it? I think it's British whiskey.
Yes. Of course, we have. I think it's Bell's.
Bell's British.
Bell's have got the butcher's apron all over, and sitting in the airport next to Great British Shortbread.
Yeah, and haggis. Yes, British haggis. Yes.
And you know, I'm finding it annoying in the extreme.
For sure.
That everywhere I turn at the moment, the butcher's apron is appearing. It's on every product in the supermarkets. It's on every advert on the TV. It's on programmes on the TV. Tuned into I don't watch TV much, as you know. Tuned into the X Factor last night, and it's the Union flag is draped everywhere throughout the studio, and they give all sorts of excuses as to why this is. The symbol on all the food products is a new safety standard. It's to tell you the quality of this food. I'm not sure that I would be relying on the image of the British flag to purvey the quality to anybody. Certainly not to me.
Well, one of the things I've always thought, it's the pomposity of our friends, the people who believe that the little Englanders, let's call it what it is,
yeah.
Who believe in the superiority of themselves. That everything they do, they have the best parliament. If you think about it, everything is the best. We have the best, the mother of parliaments. Wimbledon, that's the best in the world.
Of course.
So the Derby is the best horse race. Wembley's the best football.
Not to mention the Premier League.
Oh, of course, the Premier League is indeed.
The Premier League is, of course, the best league in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Which has, the English league, best league in the world, has very few English players.
Yeah, but the other thing, and I've often said, if you actually look at the amount of times, you go back to 1992 when the Premier League began, and you actually see how many times they won the Champions League. Not that many.
No.
And I'm sure someone in here will be quick on to say, oh, you should have known it was. These are the teams. I wouldn't know because I don't really follow English football, but it's really, in comparison, not a lot of times. It is certainly the richest league in the world. It's obscenely rich. But here's another thing, folks, you should think about. The BBC did a contract. Now, we all pay the same licence fee, whether you're in Portsmouth or Perth. We all pay the same licence fee. But they give English football £65 million a year. And Gary Lineker. We get 3 bob and a balloon.
And a piece of used chewing gum.
Yeah, and we get. They then play their footballs plays before ours on the television. So it's, you're almost into Sunday morning before you're allowed to watch the Scottish football. It's devalued. All I'm saying is we want fairness. We've never asked for more, just a level playing field. So if they're getting 60 million, give us 6 million. You give us a 10%. We pay the same licence fee. Why shouldn't we get the same money into Scottish football?
Or Scottish anything else for that matter, or
sure.
Scottish programme in general.
For sure. Well, one of the things here, folks, as you probably heard, John and I go back a long way. He and I could sit here and talk all night, when we probably will too.
We probably will, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But now we'll be doing that over, I would think, something a little stronger than this that we've got at the moment. So we're going to go away. I want to thank you for listening in. And as usual, if you've got anything you want to bring up, anything we've mentioned tonight, please let us know. In the meantime, you take care. Bye-bye.